Hey YouTube, how you doing? Biggie here, how's everything? Welcome to another movie review, and today's movie review, I'm going to be going back in time again. Like I said when I reviewed The Little Mermaid, imagine it's 1989. George Herbert Walker Bush becomes the 41st President of the United States, and may he rest in peace. The Berlin Wall, torn down. The hottest act in the teen music business, New Kids on the Block. And what do these events have to do with 1980? They all happened in this year of this movie that I'm about to review. And today movie I'm reviewing, if you love John Candy and love John Hughes movies, today I'm reviewing Uncle Buck. Yep, Uncle Buck. Released by Universal Studios Pictures and Hughes Entertainment in 1989. And it's a comedy directed by John Hughes, and may both John Hughes and John Candy rest in peace. What great legends. And it's directed by and written by John Hughes, and it stars John Candy as Uncle Buck. He takes care of his nieces and nephew while their parents are away. And also this movie was released in the summer, August 16th of 1989, and it ranked in number 13, the number 13th highest grossing films of 1989, with a budget of $15 million, and it made over $79 million at the box office. And Batman with Michael Keaton was the number one highest grossing film of 1989, and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade was number 2. Lethal Weapon 2 was 3. Those are the 3 highest grossing films of 1989. And I'm shocked kind of that The Little Mermaid really did. But The Little Mermaid was the highest grossing rated G film of 1989, but Uncle Buck is PG, but Honey, I Shrunk the Kids from Disney with Rick Moranis was the highest grossing PG film of 89. But anyway, let's get to the movie. I really, really love this movie. It's a classic. If you have never seen Uncle Buck before, I recommend you go see it. This is a DVD from 2012, same year I got this. I got this as a Christmas present in 2012. And this has the combo of the Great Outdoors with John Candy and Dan Aykroyd. And I love Dan Aykroyd. And Great Outdoors is from 1988, and that's also from John Hughes as well. I've seen parts, and this also has Annette Bening from the 1999 movie American Beauty. And I've seen parts of this movie, but I want to see a little bit more of it, and when I do see it, I want to review it. Also, I love this with the Great Outdoors. I love the little raccoon right there. And be careful with raccoons, foxes, anything. As much as I love raccoons and foxes and other animals like that, yeah. So, and it has a 62% on Rotten Tomatoes. I kind of think it deserves more than that. With an average rating of 5.9 out of 10 on the critical consensus. And Roger Ebert gave it a 1.5 stars out of a possible 4. But as much as I loved Roger Ebert, may he rest in peace, he said he was writing that Uncle Buck was unusually bitter and angry for a Hughes movie. I kind of disagree with that. Hughes is usually the right usually the master of the right note, the right line of dialogue, and this time there is no uncomfortable undercurrent in this material. In the material, but whatever. That's their opinion. That's their opinion. But yeah, in this movie, it's about it shows Uncle Buck's three nieces, two nieces and one nephew. 15-year-old Tia, played by Jean-Louisa Kelly, and 8-year-old Miles. He's played by, we all know, the great Macaulay Culkin. Home Alone 2, The Page Master, and 6-year-old Maisie. She's played by actress Gaby Hoffmann. And they all, Bob and Cindy Russell, their parents and the kids move to Chicago, Illinois suburbs because of Bob's promotion, because he got promoted for a new job, and Tia is not very satisfied at all because she had to move. They had to move away from their happiness and everything, and then one night the Russells, they received a phone call that Cindy's father had a heart attack, and Tia, resentful about the life she was forced to leave behind in Indianapolis and feeling her parents neglect her and her siblings, she was blaming the heart attack on their mother Cindy, leaving her with her mother fraught. And while Cindy and Bob, they were looking for people to watch the kids and everything, and Bob was like to Cindy, "What about Buck? I'm sure he would be happy to help." And Cindy is not comfortable with it. She's like, he's not. I don't want him here. He's not married. He doesn't have kids. He doesn't even work. I don't feel comfortable with him leaving around my kids. The trashy people he hangs out with, that woman who sells tires, the horse, and then they were forced. And then she asked Bob to call another neighbor family, the Nevilles, but while Cindy was telling the kids what was going on, telling the kids what was going on, and she tells him that the Nevilles were going to watch him, but Bob gives Cindy the bad news that the Nevilles were in Florida. So Bob said, "I don't think we have much of a choice." And they're like, "Can we trust him?" And then he calls Buck, and then he sounded like he was all drunked up and everything, and he's a drinker and everything, but had a good heart, good everything. And he lives in a small apartment in Chicago, and he was driving a rundown 1977 Mercury Marquis Brougham coupe, and he earns his living betting on rigged horse races, and he had a long-term girlfriend, Shanice, played by Amy Madigan, who I've seen in like Michael Jackson's "Just Beat It, Beat It, Beat It," and may Michael Jackson rest in peace. And I've seen her in Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner, and but anyway, yeah. And then Buck approved to watch the kids and get them to school while Cindy and Bob are away in Chicago. I mean, not Indianapolis, Indiana. Yep, and then Buck eventually gets there, and then he starts taking control of the house and everything until the parents get back. And yeah, and his girlfriend Shanice wanted him to get married and start a family, but he wanted to retain his freedom and lack responsibility, and she warns him that he'll eventually end up alone, but that was kind of not possible. But then he eventually befriends Miles and Maisie, who he's never met, and Tina remained distant and rebellious. And he settles into the Russ. Yep. Then that all happened the next morning and everything while he's cooking them breakfast and everything, and then he eventually takes the kids to school. And that I love that car in that movie, that Mercury. And if I was to get a car from that year, 89, I would have a Chevy S10 Blazer. You get a digital animated gauge cluster, which I'll say something. But right now, let's talk. Yeah, that Uncle Buck movie. Yeah, Buck drives the kids Tia. He takes Tia to school first because she's in high school, and then he takes, because Maisie and Miles are in elementary school, and then he takes them last, and then he gets into Tia's school, and then he's like, and then he does, and then his car backfires, goes like boom, yeah, and then Tia's she's like, and then Buck is like tying your shoe. Yep. Yeah, and yeah, I haven't seen this movie in a while. But I have some memories of watching it. But I still love the movie. And yeah, and Buck asked Tia what time him to pick her up, and she said Buck told him he has his orders to pick them up, and she said, I said I'll get a ride, and he threatens to like dress in his pajamas and walk her to her first class if she's not out there, and then as soon as he gets home, drops the kids off, and he settled into the Russell's home and learns that he'd been cropped out of photos and has otherwise been forgotten. And yeah, he sees the wedding and stuff and sees his brother's mustache and everything, and over the next several days, he deals with several situations, like he had to take the kids to school and everything, and he tells Shanice eventually, and then she was like, I'm surprised you could do it for your brother, Buck, but you couldn't do it for me. And when she's like, I gotta go now, and then she hangs up the phone, then stomps her hand on the desk. Next thing you know, it's an ink stamper. Yeah, and yeah, and he picked up the kids from school, when he picked up Tia, and she sees her boyfriend, and Bug, played by Jay Underwood, and he walks her to the car, and she's like, call me, and he's like, and then he's like, you ever hear of a tune-up? Buck going, you ever hear of a ritual killing? Bug's like, I don't get it, and Buck's like, on her face like that, and you'll be one. And then he starts his car, and then just drives off, and then door shuts and she's complaining, yelling. She's like, "You could have taken his head off." He's like, "What do you know? The guy's a predator and you're his prey." And she didn't want to believe that until the very end of the movie, which I'll discuss. She finds out the truth about Bug, and then like when he he settled like the next, and then there was another scene which I liked, had Laurie Metcalf from Roseanne. She played their neighbor Marcy. She came to see Cindy, and then and she goes into the house to look for Cindy, but she sees Buck trying to get the laundry machine working correctly, and he can, and she's like, "Come on, don't talk. Come on, you want the crowbar, huh? Come on, you son of a pizza pie, come on." Then the dog comes in, and she's licking up right by her, and she's screaming, and then Buck hears it, and she's like, "Ah!" and she scares the dog, like, go, "Ah!" And then she pulls pepper spray on Buck. She's like, "Cindy!" And then Buck's like, Cindy's in Indianapolis. What's she doing in Indianapolis? Her father had a heart attack. Who are you, and how do you know her father had a heart attack? I'm her brother-in-law. Oh yeah? Who are you talking dirty to? The washing machine. I didn't know how to work. I was kicking it and swearing, which is not a common thing to do. And she apologized, and they got to know each other, and she's like, her name is Marcy Dahlgren, but it's Marcy Dahlgren Frost, and she's like, "I'm single again, but I never bothered to lose the frost." And and then they kind of get to know each other, and she kind of felt attraction towards him, but she didn't know Buck was kind of like, there was somebody who wanted to get to know him, wanted to marry him, and that was Shanice. But then, and then there was the scene where they go bowling and everything. The kids go bowling and then the kids are Miles and Maisie are bowling, but Tia's just sitting there, and then some guy with a toothpick with a black eye, they call him Pal, and he had a black eye, and he's like, "How you doing?" He's like, "I don't never see you around here. I'm here all the time. That's why they call me Pal." And he's like, "You like all-terrain vehicles? I got a brand new Bronco right out in the parking lot, red." And she kept ignoring him she's like, "Hi boys, and he's like, "I got a cure for them." Buck comes over and gets him out of there, and he's like, "Buck, you got a game going somewhere, pal?" "Yeah." "Well, you're not going to get any strikes sitting there, are you?" "Move it, go on, get out of here." And then his other friend comes, E. Roger Cogswell. He's played by Brian Tarantina, I believe his name is. May he rest in peace too. And he kind of reminded me a little bit like Jason David Frank, who played Tommy Oliver in the Power Rangers franchise. May Jason David Frank rest in peace. Like, Dragon Zord, Tiger Zord, Sea Ranger 5, red, White Ranger power, shift into turbo, Red Lightning turbo power, and that Dino Thunder power up. Yeah. But anyway, and then Tia asked Buck who Shanice is, and he's like, "That's a friend of his and everything, and he might eventually get to know her." And then the next day, Miles had a birthday party. Him and his friends were over. Buck made this humongous pancake-like cake with big butter and a candle. He's like, "Happy birthday!" And then they found out his mother hired a clown, and it was a drunk clown, Pooter the clown. He was played by Mike Starr, who we all know played the mental guy in Dumb and Dumber, the one who took the pills. And he answers the door after he's Pooter rings the doorbell, and then till he found out he was drunk, and he's like, "Sorry, I'm late. I was at this all-night bachelorette party. You need dildo jokes? Bang! I'm the guy." And he's like, "I wouldn't be drinking if I was going to entertain some kids." And he's like, "I don't take anything from you. You am in the field of local live home entertainment. I'm a god." And Buck going, "Get in your mouse and get out of here. Hey, you, let me tell you something, you low-life, lying, full-flushed sack of..." Boom! 2 times he punched him. And then the second time he got up, boom, it was a wipeout. Yeah, and then... Yep. And Buck also dealt with going to a meeting with Maisie's school principal, and see. And she said, she's like, "I've seen a lot of bad eggs. I've been an educator for 31.3 years, and I've seen a lot of bad eggs. And when I look at your niece, Buck, and she's a treadler, a silly heart, and I don't think she takes her career seriously." And he's like, "She's only 6," and that principal with the disgusting mole right there, and she's like, "That is not a valid excuse. I hear that every day and I dismiss." And he defends her and everything, and he's like, "I don't think I want to know." And I don't have a college degree. I don't even have a job. And it plays Maisie telling about her uncle couldn't get the washing machine work, and her teacher was like, when her teacher asked if anybody would like to share something that happened this weekend, she's like, "He can't get the goddamn thing to work." And then he goes, "Blasphemer!" And that's when Buck defended. He's like, because they're all good kids. I know a good kid when I see one. In fact, they're all good until brain dead, dried out skags like you convince them that they're no good. You so much as scowl at my niece or anybody, I'm coming looking for you." And then he just leaves, walks out. She's like, "Next." And he's like, "Ah, yes." And then Tia with Buck's interference with Tia's relationship with Bug. Shanice calls the house one night, and then convinces Shanice that Buck was cheating on her with a single neighbor, Marcy, Laurie Metcalf. And then ended their relationship. And then the next morning, Buck was doing laundry because he couldn't get the washing machine work correctly, and I think that's pretty freaking funny. And he was doing hair dryers, microwaving them and everything, and until Marcy comes to see her, and Marcy comes to see her, and they start dancing and everything. And then Shanice comes in the house and wants to have a word with Buck. She sees Buck and Buck and Marcy dancing together, and then Shanice does kind of confront Buck, especially, and she's like, "Is this the woman you were out with last night?" Because Tia was on the phone, trying to convince, and she lied, saying that Buck was out with Marcy and they were starting to date, and that's what Shanice was over there to confront him. And he's like, I was not out last night. I'm telling you the truth. And she's like, you son of a. And he's like, don't say that. She walks out, just kicks Buck's Mercury, and then gets back into her SUV and drives off. And then their relationship was was dead, done, but not for long. And he laments that people used to envy his carefree life, but he realizes that his lifestyle is no longer admirable. And then he told Buck, because that's when he told Marcy to leave the house if the party was over. And then the next morning, Tia goes to school with Buck. Bug picks her up, and then she tells Miles and Macy that she's going to a party, and then because Buck had a horse race that would provide him with enough money for the entire year, and then Buck goes looking for Tia and everything. Tried waiting for her at school. Couldn't find her. She wasn't there. And then he decides to look for her instead of attend the horse race. And then he gets home and he finds out that Miles and Maisie were home. And then they hear his car backfiring. And I love Macaulay Culkin. He's like, UB's home. And then he asked where she was, and he's like, does anybody know how to keep a promise around here? Miles and Maisie raise their hand. He's like, I know you guys do, but. And then he goes to look for her and everything. He's like, I have to take you with me to a race. I don't care what your folks say. I have to take you with me. And he was saying that he would not leave their side because of their ages. And so he gets in the car. He puts him in the car. He's like, get your belts on. Starts the engine. Then he's like, so he called Shanice to watch the kids and everything, and tells her what was going on. And then she said she would help him. And she's like, because there's kids involved, and as of right now, our relationship is over. And he's like, I understand that. He's like, for what it's worth, I'm sorry. And then he goes to look for for Tia, and then Shanice gets to the house, and Macaulay Culkin's looking through the doggy door, and then Shanice tells him that she was there to watch him, and he's like, can I see your driver's license? She's like, what? And then Buck's goes to that house where the party's at. He parks his car, and he parks his car at the party, and then that backfire, and eventually when that car's backfiring, I hear a sound that goes, wow! Like, that sounded like James Brown going from that, ow, I feel good, and he's looking for Bug and Tia, and then and they're playing that song by Young MC, Bust a Move, you want it. I love that song. Another rap song was in that movie too, Tone Loc, Wild Thing, from which I didn't mention. It was from the principal meeting. Yeah, Uncle Buck went to go look for Tia and everything, and And oh boy, he eventually finds Bug, but not Tia. Yeah, because what Bug was with another girl, and what, I'm not going to say it in here, what Bug did, it was so, with the other girl, so disgusting. And she kept going, I don't want to do this. And Bug's like, yeah, you do. And she's like, stop it, please. He wouldn't stop. And then what? And he knocks on the door, and he's like, and then he says, this room's taken. And then he threatened to kick somebody's butt if that door opens. But then Buck opens the door with his drill, and then he noticed it was Buck. It was Bug. I get them all mixed up. Buck, Bug. And then Bug, he sees Bug with another girl, that it wasn't Tia, and then eventually he gives him that smile and then Tia eventually was walking home, very tearful and everything, and Buck finds her all tearful, and then she admitted to Buck that he was not wrong. He was right about Bug's intentions, and he was only interested in sex and everything. And then they start reconciling again. She apologized, and she goes, "Did you do anything to Buck?" And then Buck smile. She's like, "Oh my God, I love this scene." She saw he had Bug tied in the trunk and with tape around his mouth and something in his mouth, like piece of paper napkin, and he's like, and then he's like, I could have suffocated here, and Bug tells him to apologize to Tia, and he's like, I'm sorry, okay, I'm sorry, and then he's like, I don't know if I told you this or not, but I'm an amateur dentist. She's like, oh yes, he is. And she takes the drill, and she's like, then he's like, I'm sorry. And she's like, get him out of there. And he's like, I'm sorry. They got him out of there. And then Buck shucks his trunk and then gets into the car, starts the engine, takes off, and then they just leave him there. And then Bug all tight with his hands taped together. He's like, yeah, come on back, I'll kick your ass, man. Chicken, you're dead. And then Buck just backs up, and then Bug's running. He's like, I'm going to sue your balls off, man. I'm going to sue you. I'm going to sue your family. My dad's a lawyer. Your history. And then Buck gets a golf he gets a golf ball and golf club, and Bug's like, what are you doing? He's like, Bug's running. He's like, your history, man, you're wasted. I'm gonna sue you for everything you got. You're gonna be broke. Buck takes his first swing, the golf, and then hits Bug. Bug's like, yeah, and hits Bug's like, ah, and he's like, no, hey, that hurt. Hey, I'm not sorry, all right? I ain't sorry for nothing. And then Buck eventually throws his second golf ball down, and then Bug just runs away, and then Buck and Tia they're in the car laughing together, and they're like, what do you see in that guy? Wait, don't answer. I don't want to know. And then they get home, and then Tia talks to Shanice after Buck and Tia reconcile. And Tia talked to Shanice, admitting her lie that Buck was seeing another neighbor, and she appreciated the confession and everything. And and saying that tells Shanice that Buck would make a good husband and father, and Buck's behind the door listening, and then Shanice kicks the door. He's like, he's like jumping, knocks him out. He's like, hi, honey. And if it wasn't for tires, it wasn't for it was for shocks. Remember? And then did you know how much? Did I ever tell you how much I loved you? And then they get the kids to bed and everything, and then, but then they just woke up, charge it like and then the next morning, Cindy and Bob come home and everything after her father's better treated. You can't say cured. They're just, I don't know. I don't do much with medical, but I know. But all I know is they're Bob and Cindy are home, and then Miles and Maisie and Shanice and Buck are in the kitchen, and then while Tia's standing by the door waiting for her mother to straighten everything out, and then Cindy sees them standing there and sees Tia standing there, and she surprised her mother with a hug, and Cindy said, promise the relationship is going to be better and different, and then I hear Tia tell Cindy, she's like, I love you, and then Buck leaning in the kitchen, the plate, the pans, and then all of them, and he says S word. He's like, S word. and Buck also agreed to take a steady job at Shanice's automobile tire shop business, everything, and she said tomorrow he's getting another new company car on Monday, and she's like, and then Buck refused to because he's like, this car is good for another 100,000 miles, and she's like, too bad you're not. And then they all say goodbye to Buck and everything, and they thank him. Bob thanks him, and then he invites T to meet up with him in the city before the pair exchange a loving goodbye and everything. And then they share an event when Tia said, just waved to him, and she and Uncle Buck just smiled and went. The ending. A good movie. I gotta say, I love John Candy, and I'm sorry that he's gone. And this is the first John Candy movie I'm reviewing since Sesame Street Presents Follow That Bird, which was released in 1985, and that's where he made a cameo playing the state trooper arresting Joe Flaherty and Dave Thomas. But yeah, I give this movie a lot of praise. I mean, it got mixed reviews, but I think it kind of deserves more than that. I gotta say, this is one of my Uncle Buck is one of my favorite John Hughes movies of the 8 on my list. You got like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, She's Having a Baby, 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I think I mentioned that. And you got The Great Outdoors as well. Yeah. To all of those who have never seen Uncle Buck, I recommend you could go out and see, you should go see it. You could catch it on like streaming sites, and as I believe right now, you can get it on Netflix, YouTube, Google Play. But I'm telling you, if you see this, go and see this classic '89 movie. For all those who's never seen it before, you won't be sorry. The cast in this movie does pretty good, and I also forgot to mention Bob and Cindy. Cindy was played by Elaine Bromka, and Garrett M. Brown is Bob Russell, the mother and father, and So I recommend and there was also, I forgot to mention, a television series in 1990. It starred the late Kevin Meaney as Uncle Buck, and that was canceled. But that one was different. It's about when Bob and Cindy die in a car accident. He is named the guardian of Tia, Miles, and Maisie's, and it did not do well from critics. And it was moved to Friday, an attempt by CBS and everything. And the ratings quickly, the ratings were way down, and that only lasted let's see, how long did Uncle Buck 1990? It only lasted 22 episodes from September 1990 to April 1991. That didn't do well. Because, I don't know. And I'm sure that didn't do too well either. But there was another one that premiered in 2016 with an African-American cast with Mike Epps as Uncle Buck and James Leisure as his brother and Nia Long as Buck's sister-in-law, and it did not do well either. It didn't. As a matter of fact, it was terrible. It suffered the same fate as the previous TV adoption did, and it was canceled. It received poorly reviewed by critics, and it was canceled after only 8 episodes. And because, in my opinion, you can't beat the '89 film. The '89 film is the best. I've not seen the TV spin-offs of Uncle Buck or anything, but I've seen this movie, and it's a great movie. So it may have received mixed reviews, but everything in this movie is good. The critics did the actors did a good job. The directors did a good job. Everybody did a good job. So to all those who've never seen it, I recommend you go out and see it. You can stream it and it's streaming anywhere. It's a great movie. You can go out and see it on streaming sites that I just mentioned, or it's a great movie. Yep. All right, YouTube. Nice seeing you. Take it easy. Be safe. Stay out of trouble. Peace.